Empower Black men to live extraordinary lives. Shatter the stereotypes. Power Black men. Power Black men. Shatter the stereotypes. Power Black men to live extraordinary lives. Shatter the stereotypes. Shatter the stereotypes. Power Black men to live extraordinary lives.
Welcome to Shatter the Stereotypes, where the intention is to empower Black men to live extraordinary lives. This show is based on the simple idea that every Black man is capable of creating inner peace, dynamic health, great relationships, and financial abundance. Therefore, we provide insights and strategies to educate, motivate, and inspire Black men to reach their full potential and create the life of their dreams. So if you're ready for some high-octane motivation and inspiration that supports and empowers you to live the life you were born to live, get ready to shatter the stereotypes so you can build a life that lights you up and positively impacts the world. So now, let's shatter the stereotypes with your host, Coach Michael Taylor.
Hello and welcome to Shatter the Stereotypes, where the intention is to empower Black men to live extraordinary lives. I'm Coach Michael Taylor, Human Potential Architect, and today's conversation is about transformation at the deepest level. Not just what you do, but who you become. Because the truth is, most people aren't stuck because of a lack of opportunity. They're stuck because they're living as a version of themselves they've outgrown. They're operating on autopilot, following scripts they didn't write, chasing definitions of success that don't truly belong to them. But what if the life you're living right now is only a fraction of who you're meant to be? What if there's a next version of you waiting, not in the future, but in a decision? Today's guest, Ronald D. Bryant, has dedicated his work to helping people answer that question. As the author of Finding the Next You, he challenges us to rethink success, take ownership of our lives, and intentionally evolve into who we're truly capable of becoming. This conversation is about identity shifts. It's about breaking free from limiting beliefs. It's about aligning your career, your purpose, and your life with who you really are. Because when you change your identity, you change your trajectory. And when you do that, you don't just transform your life, you transform the narrative. So, hello, Ronald. How are you? And welcome to Shatter the Stereotypes.
How you doing, Michael? I'm well. Thank you for having me. It's great to be with you and your audience today. Very excited to talk about transformation and the work of architecting your life and finding your next you along the way.
Absolutely. So, before we dive into your work and your book, let's start off with a few icebreakers. So, first of all, name a woman who inspired you to be who you are.
A woman who inspired me to be, that would be my mother,
Okay. What's her name?
Patricia. Her
Trisha.
name's
Okay.
Patricia.
Patricia.
Yeah. Yeah, when I was a teenager, my mom is a grinder, has been her whole life. I didn't quite know that in my earlier years, but as I got older and became a parent myself and began to do some investigation into her journey to answer some of my own questions that I had about kind of how she showed up in particular seasons of my life, I began to learn and unpack more about who she was and who she continues to be. And when I think about myself and my journey and all the effort she always made to do her best, while she may have not had all of the resources, what I love about her is she always did her best to position me where the resources for opportunity for me would be. Even though she didn't always have those opportunities within her fingertips, she always did her best to position me where I was able to get access to them. And so when I look back over my life, there are moments that I can pinpoint that I like to define as transformational moments. And my mom played a major part in several of those scenarios. So she would be one that I would name as a woman who inspired me.
Nice. Yeah, because I know my mom, my mom is the foundation for my optimism.
Yeah.
And she taught me not just through words, but through actions. I can't remember a single time as a child I heard my mother complain about anything.
Wow.
And she was a single mom with six kids back in the 60s. And again, she just always maintained this positive attitude. And it embedded itself in me from an early age. I've always had that same outlook. Now, name a man you look up to and admire.
A man that I look up to and admire. I would actually name two from a spiritual standpoint that have been very instrumental in my life. One would be Bishop Hezekiah Walker, who is a spiritual father, and I didn't grow up in church, but early in my young professional life, when life started to hit, and I started to get the sense that there was something bigger and greater for me to do, but did not have a sense on or really any foundation to stand on to understand what that meant. He played a major role in shaping my tenacity, my resilience, and my spiritual foundation that I stand on still to this day. And then I would say here as of lately, I would give Bishop Jakes a nod when we relocated to Dallas. Um, his voice was a major clarion call for my entrepreneurial calling, my understanding my place in the marketplace while yet feeling like I'm carrying an assignment directly from the Most High. His voice was instrumental in helping me launch the Life Design Institute, which I did when I arrived in Dallas from my transition from New York here about 8 years ago. And so those two gentlemen, I would say, one and Bishop Walker, very, very close relationship, and then Bishop Jakes from afar, although as a member of a church as well. But those two would be the gentlemen that I would name.
Nice. Now, I want you to imagine that you're going to be trapped on an island for 30 days and
Okay.
you can only take one book with you. What book would you take and read?
I take Finding the Next You. I take my own book.
Okay, there you go.
At this stage of where I am, I would take that book. I think it represents not only my journey, but also my guidance to anyone who's stuck. And if I'm on an island, I'm stuck. And so I think the book would give me the inspiration, the stability, and the peace to navigate my way through those 30 days until somebody came to rescue me. So Finding the Next You would be the book that I would carry with me as a reminder to what I've done to date and the work that I still have to do going forward.
Now, I'm wondering if you've had the same experience I've had as an author. Sometimes I'll read one of the books that I've written and I'll go, wow, did I write that? And and I realized that, it was more than just me that was writing those words. I know that it was divinely inspired by, I'll call it a higher source. Have you had that experience?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Going through my editing process, kind of streamlining some things, but yet reviewing, what I had put together. I was like, okay, okay, that sound like you're working with a little something there. It's like, all right, RB, you got a little something there. And definitely to your point, um, feeling very much and actually, a part of my writing routine is an affirmation and prayer before I start. So I'm fully aware that everything that I have to give and everything from a creativity standpoint that comes to me is definitely a gift from the Most High for sure. So I'm
Yeah.
I'm I'm with you, my brother, on that one. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, I know I didn't come up with that on my own. I got some help from somewhere.
Yeah, and again, I've written a total of 18 books actually. And
Yeah,
I've actually gotten to a point now where I actually don't write books. I just download them. I just say, "Hook." I say, come on, God, let's go. Just tell me what you need me to write. And I just get
absolutely.
in front of the computer. Just that creativity just kind of pours out of it. Now, I wrote a book titled The Cure for Onlyness. A Black Man's Guide to Joy, Passion, and Purpose. And in the book, I talked about the unique challenges that we as Black men deal with when we're in environments where we're the only person of color. And I'm saying
Mhm.
you've had that experience. So, how do you navigate those experiences?
So you're right. I have been. I would say I'm a technologist by trade and have been in several circumstances when I have stepped into a room only to look around that room, look around that conference table, and realize that I am the only man of color in that room, particularly a black man. And I would say initially it was challenging to handle because you start to ask a lot of questions, and
Mhm.
then you also start to question yourself. But as I navigated those spaces over time, I would say the one thing that you have to settle in is that it's not by accident that you are in that room, that you are capable and able, and it is in that ability that your giftings put you in that space. So first and foremost, you have to stand very much in a element of awareness and self-confidence. That's number one. Number two, I would say in those spaces, you have to take the opportunity for what the space provides. So don't be overcome by the moment and allow the opportunity to pass for you to extend and expand your voice in that space. So I say to the brothers that are watching, if you find yourself in those scenarios, let that self-confidence exude in the creativity that's running in you in those moments. When you hear the strategies and the conversations passing back and forth from your colleagues in that space, don't miss the opportunity to add your voice and your perspective to that conversation. As you do that, it's going to open up a level of courage that adds to that confidence that is going to create additional moments when you find yourself in those scenarios. It won't be so foreign to you. So you
Yeah.
have to stand on that confidence. You have to stand in that courage and realize that this is not a moment for you to be caught in your thoughts around the whys and how comes this is what it is, but recognize the opportunity for what it is and let your voice be heard, let your ideas be heard, and do that with a great deal of confidence and courage.
Yeah. And one of the things my mom taught me at an early age, and again, my mom is the foundation of who I am. And my mom used to always say, no matter where you go, show up and show out.
That's right. That's right.
And basically what she was
I,
saying,
I like your mama. She nice.
and basically what she was saying is, as a black man, when I show up, I have an opportunity to change people's minds about black men by how I show up.
Absolutely.
And so she said, make sure that you show up and show out, baby. Just be you, which I love.
Absolutely.
I love that.
Absolutely.
So
And it is difficult to do that though when you lack confidence in yourself.
absolutely. Yeah,
So so
that's what
so
that's what we're about to dive into
hmm
with your book. So we're going to dive into that. So here's the last question though.
sure.
As a man who happens to be black, are you optimistic or pessimistic about the future in general?
I'm an optimist by nature. So I believe that in every obstacle there's an opportunity. So it is fair to say that times are challenging for us as Black men navigating the systems and times that we're navigating. But yet and still, there's a great deal of opportunity in this time as well. With the AI revolution at hand, with the opportunity to now be in control of your life and your destiny more than any time in our history. So while yet there are some challenging dynamics to the time that we live in, there are also a great number of opportunities if you have the mindset and the confidence to pursue them. And
Mm.
so I think that is the major differentiator from those of us who are going to succeed in those time in these times and those to come versus those who are going to remain stuck and struggling to find our path forward. So I'm a firm believer in every obstacle presents an opportunity. So your job is on a day-to-day basis to find the opportunity within every scenario that you find yourself in.
Now, with that being said, can I ask how old you are?
47.
Okay, 47. So I'm 65 and I'm an optimist. Matter of fact, on my tagline, it says, I'm an irrepressible optimist with a passion for the impossible.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it's interesting because my belief, and this is just Michael Taylor's belief, is that every generation evolves regardless of ethnicity. And so I think we're still evolving. I think collectively as Black folk, the younger generation see things completely differently than how we saw them back in the 60s. because I remember segregation. I mean, I remember race riots in elementary school, right? So
Mm,
I've seen that. I've experienced it. And so a lot of these young cats that I talk to, they think, well, that stuff was, thousands of years ago. No, that happened in my lifetime. So
absolutely.
again, what inspires me is when I speak to people like yourself that are, having this mindset, this optimistic mindset. It gives me reasons for optimism because the more we share with each other this mindset of optimism, then we spread and change the narrative about how we see ourselves. And so that's what we're going to talk about now. So we're going to talk about your book, but before we do, tell us a little bit about the Life Design Institute.
Sure. The Life Design Institute is a training and consulting firm that I started to address what I call the triple disconnect. And the triple disconnect is three, three, three entities. The first is higher education. The second is corporate America, and the third is the young professional. And the disconnect between those three is the higher education institution. They are consistently behind teaching and preparing young adults for methodologies and concepts that are outdated. The corporation is disconnected because they are trying to find young talent while at the same time not understanding the best way to cultivate and onboard that talent so that they become true value assets for that given organization. And then you have the young professional. The young professional looks at the other two, recognizing that they're both preparing them not for the benefit of the young professional, but the benefit of the institution. And so the Life Design Institute is geared to help bridge that disconnect between those three entities and ensure we bring to bear the appropriate resources, training, and discussion. And to the point that you just raised, what was underneath a bit of what you're saying was community, right? Where is the community that young professionals can tap into to help them navigate the disconnect? And so that's what the Life Design Institute is all about.
Mm, nice. So again, I'm an author, and obviously I just love books. And again, I really admire brothers who are putting out books because we've all heard the stereotype. If you want to hide something from a black man, put it in
Put
a
it in a
book.
book. Put it in a book. That's
Right.
right.
And so we have to write these books. We have to share this knowledge and wisdom. That's how we transform ourselves. So let's dive into finding next you. And so what problem were you seeing that needed to be solved that challenged you to write this book?
Yeah, no, I love that question. Uh, the problem that I saw, and really is the thesis, if you will, to my work, is giving away the power that has been God given to create the life that you have the power to build. And what I mean by that is from the time that we start school, we are prescribed a particular path. And that path is you go to school, you graduate from high school, you go to college, you get a degree, you get that degree, and then you move into a career that will provide for you stability and safety, right? I'm going to get on this conveyor belt and I'm going to ride it into retirement and I am going to be good. I have nothing to worry about. I'm going to follow those rules that have been dictated to me since I stepped into first grade kindergarten that says this is your pathway to success. And that is a fallacy. It's a lie. And so the problem that I'm looking to solve with Finding the Next You is to help this young generation and those to come. And even I've gotten I've gotten quite a few calls from some of my colleagues and friends who are my age, and they're like, "Well, I'm not a young professional, but this book is blessing me. It's making me rethink some things." But the problem that the book is solving is how do we help young professionals recognize that the true pathway to success is not waiting for approval or the opinions of others. It's actually building up, as we talked about earlier, the self confidence, the persistence, and the passion and curiosity for continuous learning to build your own path, because that is indeed what we all have been gifted to do. But we've been indoctrinated with this belief that there are these certain paths we have to take to get there, and this is the only way that you can do it, when that is not, that's not true. And we're seeing that now, right? I think it's over 200,000 people have been laid off since June of 2025 until now. And so where did your safety go? Where did your security go? Well, it went into an AI project that your corporation found more valuable than you. And so a lot of folks today, and now particularly we're seeing it with young professionals, where now the entry level road runway, we would say, into their careers now being taken away, because corporations are saying, well, we're going to automate, we're going to invest the dollars we would allocate to you in these other things that we believe are more valuable. So now the question for these young professionals becomes, well, wait a minute. I thought if I followed everything that y'all told me to do, I was going to be okay. Well, I have my degree now. I invested the money in the four-year institution that you said was of value that I needed to get. Now you're telling me there's nothing for me. So that is the problem that I'm looking to solve, is to help young professionals define their pathway and their blueprint to the success that they feel called to achieve.
Yeah. And so I want to kind of piggyback on that for those of you who are watching. The American dream is a trap.
Indeed.
The American dream says if I have the house, the wife, the 2.5 kids, the 401ks, I'm going to be happy. And what do? We chase that American dream. I chased that American dream and I actually lived the American dream at 23. I had it all, if you will. In about a 6 year time frame between having the dream, that dream turned into a nightmare as I went through divorce, bankruptcy, foreclosure, depression, and even homelessness.
Wow.
And I say all that to say, and we're going to dive into this a little bit, but the key is first and foremost, you figuring out who you really are, figuring out what your unique gifts and talents are, and figuring out a way that you can take those things and in your own way make the world a better place. And when you do that, you can build a purpose-filled life.
Absolutely.
And so the only way to get there, though, is to go through what we're about to talk about, because finding the next you is a process, and
Indeed it is.
transformation is a process. And so we're going to dive into it. So you talk about becoming the next version of yourself. Now, I know a lot of
Mhm.
people watching this are going to go, what the heck does that mean?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so in practical terms, what does finding the next version of yourself mean?
Yeah. So it's a really interesting point, right? Because if you're not careful, you will think that that means that you have to reinvent yourself, that you have to become, that who you are today isn't good enough, and that's not accurate. So it's not a matter of reinventing yourself, but it is a matter of reinvesting in yourself and thinking about where you are today and what are the things that you need to do to become the person that the vision that you say you want to achieve is demanding that you become. No matter who we're talking to, right? You and I, the person that's listening, we all want to get somewhere, right? And I call that, that is that old saying, beauty is the eye in the eye of the beholder. Your dream is beautiful. It don't matter what Michael thinks about it, what Ronald thinks about it. If what you say is what it is and it's beautiful to you, that beauty is in your eye. It don't matter what anybody else says. But the reality of that beautiful dream that you're thinking of is that you're not living it today. If you were, you wouldn't be in the spot that you're in, right? So this idea of finding the next you is really about understanding where you are today and where it is that you want to go. And I'm
Mm,
holding my hands apart intentionally because there's a gap that exists from who you are today and the place that you want to get to tomorrow. And finding the next you is all about helping you close that distance, that bridge, so
Mm-hmm.
that you ultimately can wake up living that dream, right? That dream doesn't have to be a nightmare. We don't want it to be the American dream. We want it to be your dream. So finding the next you was really all about helping people tap into discovering what that dream is, because to the point that you made, um, and unbeknownst to us at times, right? For until you reach certain milestones, or as Mike Tyson says, everybody got a plan until you get punched in the face, and then you get that punch in the face by life, and then you seeing stars, and you're like, hold on, this life thing ain't making sense to me right now. Something ain't right. So all of that is happening to us at some point in time. And my goal with finding the next you is to help people get there sooner rather than later. And to help them recognize the power that lies within to indeed become the architect of your life. That is a principle that I believe in, and I know you do as well. And so my whole thing is, okay, so let's settle that. You are the architect of your life. Let's start with that belief mindset. And the next question after that is, okay, so if you are the architect of your life, the question then is, what type of life do you want to build? And that question is where a lot of people struggle. Finding the next you was designed to help them answer that question.
Mm. Now, I have come to believe, actually, I have come to know that there are really only two things that will cause a person to want to change, that will cause a person to even start thinking about the next version of themselves. And those two things are, one is pain, and
Mm-hmm.
the other is what I call divine discontent, which is just an
Mm.
feeling that
Yeah, I like that.
something's just off. We
Yeah.
don't know what it is, but those are the two things. So take us back on your personal journey, and what was it that challenged you to let you know that you needed to evolve into your next you?
Yeah, yeah. So similar to yourself, you said at 23 you were living the American dream, right? As was I around that age. Graduated from college, degree in information systems, landed my first real job, as they would say, as the old folks would say, your first real job in New York City in technology, making great money. Nice little apartment in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. I was, hey, life was good. Things were well. You couldn't tell me nothing, you know what I'm saying? And uh, went away to a good friend of mine's. He got married, came back, took a couple days off, went into the office Monday morning, and manager pulled me into the office and said, "Hey, listen, we appreciate everything that you've done here,
Uh-oh.
but we're downsizing,
Uh-oh.
and your role has been impacted, and so here's your paperwork for Cobra." 24, 25 years old. I had no idea what Cobra was. And for those of you out there who are listening, it's healthcare, right? When they lay you off, they're like, "We ain't covering you, but you can go here and get you some coverage." But that was the moment, and I would even say, if I just take a step back very quickly, when all was going well, to your point about you call it spiritual discontent, right? Is that I caught that correctly?
Divine
I was
discontent.
I was going to work, and to your point, there's got to be more than this.
Mm-hmm.
Got to be more than this. Yeah, you're good at the technology stuff, but there's got to be more. But what is more? What is more? I don't know. I don't know. Well, you could always start looking, but what if I look? I mean, I can't leave this job. I can't. My mother would fly all the way out to New York and beat my tail if I told her I'm leaving this good job to go because I feel like there's something more. Uh, and so I remember struggling with that, to your point. And I said, you know what? I'm just gonna sit on it. I'm gonna play it safe, right? I'm gonna stay safe. I got this good job. I'm gonna keep making this money. I'm not gonna start trying to unpack and discover what this pull that I feel is on me. And little do you know, to where to where I was a minute ago, I went into that job that Monday thinking it was gonna be a normal Monday. I was gonna Go get my little coffee from my man on the corner. In New York, they got a little stand on the corner. Get your little donut, little coffee. Go upstairs. I thought it was gonna be a normal day. Had no idea. And I remember riding home on the train, on the A train down to Brooklyn. Utica Avenue was my stop, and I just was like, man, this can't be happening. What am I gonna do? How am I gonna pay my rent? How am I like I and it's not good to be laid off anywhere, but we talking about New York City. So I remember that being the moment too where I started to question life in its totality. I started questioning my parents. I started questioning the lack of preparation I felt for this moment. That to
Mm,
that comment I made about life punching you in your face and your gut and you folding up, like an infant. It was that type of moment, and that was the moment that I started to question everything and realized that there was no safety in the system. The only real safety was in discovering what I felt was pulling on me internally. And I remember going to a service, and the crux of the service was this point that I have built my life on this principle. Preparation is the highest form of faith.
mm,
That did to me, as I remember moments sitting in my apartment, emotional, crying, just overwhelmed with how was I going to navigate this? Like, I didn't know. And that moment, that service snapped me out of that because it was a reminder of what was pulling on me. That there is something more for you, bigger for you. Now, you have to decide if you believe that that's true, you got to start preparing for that thing's arrival, whatever that thing is. And some of us, as we're talking to those who's tuning into us, that not knowing is the blocker, but it also has to be the inspiration as well, the willingness, the courage, the confidence to go, I don't know what it is, but I have enough faith that I'm going to start preparing on a day-to-day basis for its arrival. Preparation is the highest form of faith. It says, God, I don't know when this thing is coming, but I believe you have something planned for me. I believe there's a purpose for my life, and I'm going to do what I can to prepare for that thing on a day-to-day basis because I believe in you. So I know I have to believe in myself because you believe in me. That's the duality of faith that some of us miss. We got a whole lot of faith in God. We got a whole lot of belief in him, but zero belief in ourselves. And we know that goes against his principles. Oh, ye of little faith, why did you not believe? The core principle is that you got to believe in you too, as well as believing in him. And when you do that, that creates a powerful activation, right? That activation in us, that's that thing. When you can tie those two things together is where you really find something powerful. So it was in that moment, Michael, that I was like, oh yeah, this I gotta go after this. And now that I look back 20 years later, Life Design Institute, finding the next you was the result of that work. That was a thing that I was looking for that I had no idea was in me. But as I continued to prepare on a day-to-day basis with that optimism we talked about, looking at every day, where's the opportunity? Where's the opportunity?
hmm Yeah. And so for the viewers, I want you to take a moment, take a deep breath here, because when life throws you those curveballs, I like to think of them now as what I call the cosmic slap upside the head.
Okay.
Now, I have to admit, at the time I went through my what some people might call dark night of the soul, I was actually an atheist.
Okay.
So I never pointed to God or blamed God or felt like God was doing anything to me at all. I didn't even have that conversation. But there was just a part of me that intuitively knew that there was something I was missing.
Hmm.
I didn't know what it was. And during those darkest moments, my saving grace has always been I've always been an avid reader.
Hmm.
And whenever I got stuck in something, I'd go to a book, I'd go find a book and I'd read on it to try to figure out what was going on. And I read a book by a guy named Dr. Wayne Dyer. And in Dr. Dyer's book, he said this. He said, as a human being, you have within you the capacity to do anything any other human being has ever done.
Hmm.
And if it hasn't been done, you can be the first. Now,
Indeed.
at the time that I read that, there was again that part of me that literally heard, because you can read something and not really hear it, you don't
Hmm.
really get it. But in that moment, it was as if my soul heard what he was saying. And when I read that, all of a sudden, everything just kind of shifted. And I said, okay, so what I have to do is I've got to figure out how to get my life back on track. And
Yeah,
Dr. Wayne Dyer's work really helped me on that journey.
absolutely.
But my point is, for those of you who are watching, you might be right in the middle of a cosmic slap upside the head right now.
Hmm.
It could be a layoff, it could be a divorce, it could be a death in the family, it could be a lot of things. But here's what I know. There is what I call divine intelligence. You can call it God, you can call it higher source, whatever you want to call it. It is within you. And right now, the challenges and struggles that you may be dealing with, it's not punishment, it's redirection.
Absolutely.
Divine intelligence is saying you're not doing what you were put here to do.
Hmm.
And it's wanting to redirect you to something greater. I'm absolutely certain of that. So, no matter what you may be going through right now, recognize that again, it's a temporary cosmic slap upside the head that's simply designed to redirect you in a different direction. So, with that being said, um, what I loved about your book, Ronald, is you challenge what we call hustle culture thinking.
Hmm.
Because most of us, when we think we got to make it, then we got to grind, we got to work 100 hours a week, and and success shows up as stuff, right?
Yeah.
The bank account, the cars, the houses, and that this whole idea of hustle. I wrote a whole book about it actually called The New Face of Entrepreneurship. But let's talk about this whole idea of the hustle culture and why you think people get it wrong.
Yeah. So because success takes time, um, and it's a process. And so, you know, so I don't want to, eviscerate social media because there are really good benefits to it, but it has certainly done a lot of harm to a
Absolutely.
lot of folks, creating a false narrative of what success is and what it takes to achieve it and sustain it. And so when I think about the hustle culture, a lot of it is, this narrative around how do you get there fast? What's the hack? What's the quickest way for you to get there, and at all costs, what is it going to take for you to get there? And I think if you really study success, which I do, and I know you do as well, and you look at folks who have achieved it and sustained it, none of them got it through this idea of it coming overnight or that it was a flash in the pan. It took consistency, a lot of persistence, a great deal of failure, and self-belief. When others didn't believe, when others didn't see it, they believed. And all those components are required in order for you to reach this idea of success. And hustle culture doesn't talk about a lot of that. Hustle culture is about how do you show up on the gram, posted in the jet, and walking around, the Ferrari, or showing stacks of money, or you walking in, choreographed with your outfit on, in the restaurant and all that. And the real entrepreneurs that I've met, the multimillionaires, don't live that life. It's a false narrative. And so when I talk, and I think it's really important, specifically, and I write about it because the young professionals that I work with and I mentor, it is a thing that we have to unravel, that we have to unpack, to almost recalibrate their definition of what success is. And when they hit that first real obstacle, they fold, right? Like a wide receiver coming across the middle and they see that safety coming, they fold. And so it's something that is important for, especially even men like us, mentoring younger guys that are on the come up. It's like, listen, you say you want success. Let's really talk about what that means. Let's really talk about when it takes double the time that you think. Let's really talk about it when you didn't get the deal or the favor that somebody promised you they was going to give you, and you really needed it, and they didn't come through. Now what do? Because you put more stake in them showing up for you than you showing up for yourself. So hustle culture is this thing that I think is really important to keep our finger on, because it has indoctrinated our young people so much that they think success is something that it's not.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, we live in this instant gratification society where we want it right now. And
That's
we
right.
think if I just, post this and get these likes or whatever, boom, I made it. It doesn't work like that
No, it
because
doesn't.
I personally believe that the universe is perfect. It's perfect in its design. And there is always chaos before creation.
Mm-hmm.
And if you happen to be religious and you understand the metaphor within the life of Jesus' story, I believe that death and resurrection is a powerful metaphor for what we have to sometimes go through in order to be fully prepared for the real success we were put on the planet to do.
Absolutely.
What I mean by that is I've always dreamed of being an entrepreneur. And, when I was climbing the corporate ladder and doing all that, and when I had the house, the wife, and all of that, I was doing it for all the wrong reasons. I was doing it because that's what I thought society said I was supposed to be doing. And so I was just kind of following this script. Well, again, I mentioned this cosmic slap upside the head. So the universe said, look, dude, you're not doing what you were put here to do. So I got to take some drastic measures because you've got some unique gifts and talents that can make a big difference, and you're not using them. So here, boom, slap upside the head, divorce, and all of that. But what it did was it helped me shift my identity. It helped me shift who I was, and I stopped pretending being somebody that I wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And it allowed me to get to what's really important, which once again, it's that self-reflection. And um, a word that's been bouncing around, I've heard a lot lately, is metacognition, meaning
Mm-hmm.
you think about what you're thinking about.
Yeah.
And so when we shift from looking outside of ourselves, look within and use this metacognition ability to think about what we're thinking about so we can start self evaluating and change what we need to change about ourselves. That's when we lay the foundation to true success. And so, what we're talking about here for the viewers is mindset and identity. Because too many times, what we're focusing on are externals. Like
Agreed.
say you look at Instagram, you look at the Instagram models and the cars and all that. Those are external things that we think if we get those things, we'll be successful. But how many stories have you seen of people that have all those things and they're absolutely miserable?
That's right. Yeah.
There's a lot of stories like that. So what we're recommending here is to stop looking out there and start looking in here. One of my favorite sayings is, if you don't go within, you'll always go without.
I love that.
And so you've said people shouldn't live like tenants in their own life. What does ownership of your life really look like?
Choosing yourself, choosing yourself, uh, not desiring or feeling as though you need the approval and the opinions of others. That to the point that we spoke about earlier, this idea that beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and when you dream a thing, that thing is beautiful, and you don't have to ask anybody's permission to pursue it. That is one of the key foundational points when we start talking about identity that we have to wrestle with. This idea of, well, if we take a step back from where you are today, where do you want to go tomorrow? Where is what I like to call your success destination? That again, uh, we're not talking about what I think it should be or what Michael thinks it should be. We're talking about what you want it to be. When you close your eyes and you think about waking up in that life you want to live, what is that life? What does it look like? Where are you? Where are you living? What type of house are you in? What type of job do you have? What type of relationships are happening that are transacting positively in your life? Are you married? Do you have kids? You got a dog, a cat? What does it actually look like? And when you ask most people that question, believe it or not, most people can't answer it.
Hmm.
They've never given themselves the permission to dream in that way. They've never chosen themselves in that way where they say, yeah, if I take a step back and I think about what success looks like when I think about this place that I want to be in, and again, we're not talking about uh how much money you're like. It's not a hustle thing. It's a purpose and fulfillment thing. Not that money shouldn't be a part of what that looks like, because it should, but it shouldn't be the anchor. The anchor of that success destination is this purpose and fulfillment you feel like is tugging at you, and that's the thing that you want to go to and you want to live. But deep down inside, there's a level of imposter syndrome and fear of you really articulating that thing. You really don't want to share it with your friends or your parents or your significant other, because you're afraid of the judgment that you're going to receive. When
Hmm.
in fact, that's the thing that's actually stopping you from living that life, is you're more concerned about opinions and approval than you are putting yourself first. And I love talking about this concept, pay yourself first.
Hmm.
And so that's something that I teach, is this idea of paying yourself first. And it is very akin to, if you do work with any financial planner worth their salt, they're going to tell you when you get your check, you pay yourself first. Uncle Sam is definitely going to take his. But when you get that check, 401k, investments, IRA, like you make sure you put something away for yourself first. I believe that same principle has to apply to your life. When you get that 24 hours deposited in your life account every day, you got to pay yourself first with that time. You can't give it to the job. And even with certain people might find this controversial, but you can't even give it to your family. You got to give it to yourself so you can get centered, you can get locked in, and understanding as you enter that day, what are these things that I need to get locked into that's going to help me move myself forward from where I am today to where I want to be tomorrow. And that's often a principle that a lot of us have never developed. We give it to our job. We give it to a lot of other things. We give it to social media and the distractions. And then once that time is gone, you can't get it back, right? So you got to pay yourself first so you can get a high return on investment in that time. And it is within that principle that you really start to unpack where it is that you want to go and why you want to go there.
Yeah. Yeah. So here's the thing. We now have access to technology, information, wisdom, to literally do anything we want to do. I believe
Anything.
hardly. But here's the question I want to ask you, Ronald. With all this access to information, why do most people struggle to change even when they know what to do?
Because most people prefer comfort than discomfort. And most people will tell you, Michael, that they want to be free, right? Most people will stand up with their pom poms and cheer. You and I get on our soapbox and we start talking about life architecture, and you have the power to do this. Like, absolutely, that's what I want to do. That's the life that I want to live. But freedom comes at a cost, and most people don't want to pay the price. And it is within that unwillingness that they stay stuck for most of their lives, and that is, and they almost look at it as inaction is safety.
Mm,
So I'm not I'm not really sure. I know there is this thing that I want to do, but I'm not really sure what to do. So I'm just not gonna act, because not acting allows me to at least stay safe in what I know to be my life and my comfort level. But inaction has a significant cost. And most folks don't realize that. So they think by not acting, they're actually remaining in a state of safety. But what they don't realize is that they're paying a cost far more than they would be paying if they just trusted themselves and decided to do the hard work of discovering whatever it is that they have been called to do.
mm, yeah,
Yeah.
100% agree. Now, if someone fully embraces the idea of becoming their next you, let's say somebody's going to get your book and they're going to really be committed and they're going to grow and be transformed, what kind of life becomes possible for them?
The life that becomes possible is one, going back to the point that I made about freedom. It's interesting because it's difficult to explain to someone when they've never lived it, to really actually wake up. And this is regardless of, and I'm not even, and I think this is an important point to make as well. I'm not even speaking entrepreneurially. You can still be a W-2 employee, work for a corporation, wake up every day and feel really great about what it is that you do. Unfortunately, most folks don't wake up like that because, again, as we just articulated, they have not done the work to define what that success looks like. But when you define what that success looks like, you understand what opportunity is for you and which ones are not. And when you can discern that, what you do is you start to stack wins. And when you start to stack wins, you build momentum that, if you've never experienced it, it's almost like, you know, being in the zone almost, right? I might be dating myself. I'm gonna use Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan, Game 6. You just you putting up 3 pointers everywhere, or Kobe, or LeBron, whoever your favorite player might be. But it's the zone that you end up living in this space where there is no failure. Even in the failures, you see the opportunity. Even in the failure, you see success. And that is what happens when you step into that space that you're articulating. This space of life being what it is that you desire for it to be doesn't mean that it's perfect. And those cosmic slaps still won't hit you. In fact, you want them to hit you because it means that you're continuing to elevate your life. Because once you reach one level, there's always another level to go. You never stop learning. That's that continuous learning component that is really a key component to our individual growth. So, what I say that space looks like is when you wake up, and even in the moments where things don't go your way, you see the opportunity for it to help your next move the next day. And then you live in this space where you're not chasing opinion or approval, you're actually chasing fulfillment. You're chasing purpose. You're chasing the thought that when you send out your newsletter or you show up in that meeting, you're doing it in the absolute highest level of service that your spirit is calling you to, because that's what your life has now arrived at. This thing that you do that isn't necessarily about how much money you make, but the purpose and fulfillment that you get from the work that you do.
Yeah. Yeah. So here's my last question.
Okay.
I want you to really think about this one. What is one truth you believe about human potential that most people aren't ready to hear yet?
Hmm. I like that. That's a good one.
Most people aren't ready to hear yet. We can get on stage and we can motivate and fire folks up, but a
Yeah.
lot of people, as a matter of fact, the majority of people, I like to look at life as a football game.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at a football game, I'm a big NFL guy. So imagine you're in this stadium. Stadium's gonna hold 60, 70,000 people. Okay. So you got all these people watching the players on the field. Now, the players that are on the field, it has taken years for them to get to that point where they're on that field.
Mm-hmm.
They've had coaches, they've had challenges, they've had injuries, but yet they're on the field. Now, what you might notice is those 60,000 people got all kinds of judgments about the people playing on the field, right? So the people out here haven't invested. They can't get on the field,
Mm-hmm.
but they can talk about the people on the field.
Indeed.
The majority of people want to stay in the stands. They don't want to be on the field. What we're talking about is getting people on the field.
Yeah.
What does it take for them to get on the field? So once again, I ask that question to you
Yeah.
again. What's that one truth you believe about human potential that most people aren't ready to hear yet?
So I love the football analogy because I'm gonna uh, I'm gonna utilize it, and I'm gonna use it to transition into my point. Because the truth about what you're saying, if you want to get on the field, one thing that you have to realize is that you're gonna get hit.
A lot.
You gotta you gotta you gotta be willing to accept the fact, whether you're on offense or whether you're on defense, you're gonna get hit. And I don't think most people want to embrace the fact that life is a physical work that is going to hit you. I don't think people want to embrace the reality that just because your dream, as we've talked about, finding your success destination, and this idea that your dream, although it be the beauty that's in your eye because you're the beholder, it doesn't mean that the journey to get there is going to be easy or that it should be. And most people don't want to embrace the fact that no matter what your journey is or your dream is, and the journey that's ahead of you, the idea that it's supposed to be easy means that it is the thing that you should be stepping into. And actually, let me say that the reverse way. Just because it's hard doesn't mean that it's not the dream for you. Just because it's hard doesn't mean that it's not the thing for you. But what, to your question, I don't think most people want to confront the fact that in order to take that journey, you're going to have to deal with resistance. To your football analogy, you're going to have to get hit. In order to get in the game, you're going to have to deal with and confront the resistance that is waiting, like that defensive back waiting to hit that wide receiver or that linebacker waiting to hit that running back as soon as he gets the ball. You have to embrace the fact that along the way, resistance is going to show up, and is going to show up in some ways that you're not going to see, that are going to be unexpected, that are going to knock the wind out of you and make you question what you're doing and why you're doing it. But I just want to encourage everybody out there, don't for 1 minute think because you experienced those things, it means the dream that you have is invalid or that you're incapable of achieving it. It's all a part of the journey. And it's going to make your arrival to that success destination even that much more empowering, that much more rewarding, that much more fulfilling when you can look back on the journey and realize the resistance and the obstacles that you navigated. But the reality is, most people, they don't want to fight. They
Yeah.
don't really want to fight for their dream. They want it handed to them in the same way they go into their job and get a paycheck every 2 weeks. It gets handed to you. And I'm not saying you don't go in and do work, but you do the work based on your comfort level. And I'll say this last point because I want to articulate this. I've been doing some research on this lately, and this I think this is a prime example of it. As even as we navigate this AI space, and people talk about opportunity, but again, do you have the fortitude and the confidence and the courage to go out and pursue it? Most corporations, especially Fortune 500s, mandate training for their staff. You got to do the mandatory training. But do you know outside of that mandatory training, the majority of people don't do any training on their own? They don't say, this is the role I want to get to. This is the promotion I'm in pursuit of. So I'm going to go without my manager asking, without the corporation mandating. I'm going to go out and do these 3, 4 trainings on these skill sets because this is what I know is a gap in my own skill set. And this is what I'm going to go out and do and learn on my own. That in and of itself is the reason most people won't recover from the layoffs that are currently happening and the opportunity, and will miss the opportunity that will come about in the AI era because they don't want to do the work to differentiate themselves and put themselves in a scenario where they have to deal with that resistance. And for those who are listening, when we think about finding the next you, that is in part what it's all about. Embracing the resistance, but also recognizing that the resistance only comes not to highlight your inadequacies, but to elevate your capabilities. And it is within that belief of what you're capable of that you can elevate yourself to the next level where you want to get to and become the person that your dream demand that you become.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So as we wind down, here's a
Yeah.
thought. There are two things that will turn a lump of coal into a diamond: time
Mm-hmm.
and pressure.
Pressure. Yeah.
Time and pressure. That's how you go from being a lump of coal to a diamond. We have to be willing to apply the pressure to ourselves, get out of our comfort zones and do some things that we not comfortable doing.
Absolutely.
And in summary, that's really what we're saying. You have to learn to get comfortable being uncomfortable
Indeed, you do.
because
Indeed, you
growth
do.
only comes through discomfort. So, with that being said, Ronald, how can people find out more about your book, more about Life Design Institute? What's your website?
Yeah.
Let's give it.
Absolutely. So if you go visit findingthenextyou.com, you'll get a really great insight on the book, as well as my digital learning platform, the Architects Hub. So the book, think about the book as your guide and lays out all of the concepts. Think about the Architect Hub as your digital life design studio, right? Where you go and it is the place where we build the habits, the skill sets, the mindset, the self-control, self-discipline, and preparation that you need on a day-to-day basis to bring that dream to pass. So
Mm,
findingthenextyou.com, and then you can also find me on LinkedIn. I am Ronald Bryant is where you can find me, and I do a lot of my content and communication there.
outstanding. You know, the reason I love doing this show is I've heard for years mainstream media say there's a lack of black male role models. There has never, ever in the history of this country been a lack of black male role models. There's only been a lack of exposure of those role models.
Agreed.
And that's exactly why I launched this platform, to have a space where we get to see positive black male role models. So, Ron, I just want to say thank you, brother, for being a positive male role model.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you for creating the platform and the space for us to have this conversation. I appreciate you.
For you to continue doing what you're doing, because, like I said, I love books. And if we collectively, as black men, really want to get ahead, we got to dive into those books, and not
Indeed,
just
we do.
books. We have to dive into the mind,
Hmm. I agree.
change our mindsets, be willing to put new information in here. And the way we do that is by reading, listening to podcasts like this to let others, because representation matters. And I'm a firm believer in what Tyler Perry said. And I love this quote when he said, "Stop fighting for room at the table, build your own table."
Build your own. That's right.
And as
That's right.
Black folk, we have to
I
build
agree.
our own tables, especially in this personal development space, this transformational space. And so it's important that we collaborate with each other to share this information and insights so that we can empower each other. And with that being said, Ron, I want to give you an opportunity now just for your closing comments, thoughts, whatever's on your heart to share.
Sure. So again, Michael, I appreciate the time that we spent together. Appreciate the opportunity to be on your platform. I would close with, don't miss your moment. Just don't miss your moment. And what I mean by that is, on a day-to-day basis, commit yourself to waking up with intention, what I like to call intentional urgency, and being willing to push yourself outside of your comfort zone and step into a season of discovery and curiosity, because we're in a time like no other, in this AI revolution that we're in. And there are opportunities, there are moments that are before you. Nobody knows a transformational moment other than you. So when you feel that pull, when you feel the tug, don't let it be something that pushes you back into a space of contemplation and procrastination, but let it push you forward into a space of self-confidence and courage, and be willing to go out and discover the next you, and be willing to understand that this journey to success that you foresee and that you desire, although you may not be sharing it out loud, but it's something you hold inside of your heart and your mind, is absolutely achievable. But it will only become achievable if you are willing to find the next you.
Absolutely. Well, again, Ron, thank you so much, bro, for what you're doing, man. I'm so glad we met, and I know that
Likewise.
there are no accidents in the perfect universe. And when I saw your post on LinkedIn, I said, man, I gotta get that brother on my podcast. So I gotta get that brother. So again, thank you for spending an hour with us. And,
Absolutely.
and so for those of you who are watching, I want to close with this thought. I'm a huge fan of Rumi, and Rumi was a philosopher, and he said this: allow yourself to be silently drawn by the strange pull of that which you love.
Mm.
It will never lead you astray. Think about that. We'll see you next episode. Take care.